when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hello, book clubbers. We're back. We're dancing. Hope you're dancing. Thanks for waiting for us while we took a little week off after the conclusion of Toll the Hounds. We're back with Dust of Dreams. I'm Jeff Cannata. I'm here with Lana Bachynski. Hi, Lana.
Hello, good morning. And always feels so good to be back, like coming home in a way. Familiar faces, very welcoming prose, and I'm really excited to dive into this book with you today.
Always fun to start a new one. This is the penultimate of our 10 mainline Malazan novels. Dust of Dreams. We're starting it with the prologue and 2 chapters this week. So excited to dig in. But we do like to start the show with a non-spoiler topic so that if you're not caught up with our reading, you can still hang out and talk books. And we got some awesome questions coming in at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. It's the best place to send us questions for the non-spoiler topic, or topics, I should say. Not just questions, but topics. This one comes from Travis, who goes by the nom de plume, Critical Toad. Critical Toad writes, it's a disaster. You're about to finally catch up to the same book I'm reading. I've had to pick up the pace for fear of being among the people who have to tune out after the non-spoiler section. Listen, gang, I went through a whole MFA program and various book clubs, readings, podcasts, etc. I don't think any of them have captured the balance between entertainment, emotional resonance, and education better than yours has. Wow, thank you.
That's so
the
sweet.
whole format and the joy and thoughtful care with which you carry it out, it's so rare and so inspiring. I started skeptical and over time laughed, cried, and danced along. Can't wait to see what's next. Thank you, Critical Toad. Here is a non-spoiler topic, but it's a quick one. Do you think you've read more poetry from any single author in greater volume than Steven Erikson? Just think of it. 10 books, roughly 20 chapters in each. I think it's exactly 24 chapters in each. You'll have read something on the order of 200 of his poems. Imagine Steve sitting in front of a blank first page and thinking, hey, I know what'll get readers a-buzzing. A mother flippin' poem. And then he typed on, having no clue what he was locking himself into. If someone asks me to list the poets I've read the most, I'd have to say Fisher Keltath, then Shakespeare. Love the show, A Critical Toad. Awesome email. Thank you for the kind words, Travis. Very, very cool.
Travis baked my joke that I was prepping right into
Fisher
the
Keltath?
email. I was like, oh yeah, there's a little guy named Fisher Keltath. Never heard of him.
Amazing. It's so true. I mean, I think, I don't know if we read this email or if it was a comment. I can't remember. But somebody mentioned the fact that it's so rare to find someone that is equally skilled at prose and poetry. And it's amazing to have such a wealth of poetry in what is amazing prose, novels. There's just so much poetry and so much great poetry. Were you ever into poetry? Are you still into poetry? What is your relationship with that form?
I would say that there's a time that I was like very into poetry, but in the same way, I think a lot of people my age were into poetry, like through the emerging of internet blogs. There was an era of my life on a now defunct
Poetry
website.
about Spock and Kirk.
I feel like I've told you this story on some DLC or maybe never. But when I was growing up, I started a blog. I never had like a physical diary or something. I wish I did. Why? And as a 12-year-old, it was like, the world wants to know. But I was on a website that doesn't exist anymore. You can't access it by the Wayback Machine, which is the only reason I'm comfortable talking about it, called melodramatic.com.
Oh, wow.
And I kept
the title says
there.
It all.
Exactly. I kept a blog from when I was 11 to when I was 22, and then the website shut down. But there was lots of like poets on there. And so I would say that I indulged in poetry for many years, but who the authors are, I don't have a clue. I have no idea. The only poet that I am like, this is a poet that I've read a lot of, but not a lot of the same poems, is David Bouchard, who wrote that book, Voices from the Wild, which I think we talked about on maybe one of our first episodes, which is just a book for the youths, the children, about animals and wildlife and through the different senses that they are good at. So that's probably like the bulk of my poetry experience. Every once in a while I'll read a poem though, and especially through Malazan, I'll be like, oh yeah, poems. Beautiful things.
I love a poem. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I admire poems from afar more than I think. Like, I don't purchase books of poems.
Yeah.
I never sat down with a book of poems. But if I read a great poem, I'm always so taken by them. I think there may be for me a bigger delta between a great poem and a bad poem. You know, like a great poem is great, but a bad poem is so bad. I don't know. For me, I maybe I'm unfair. And again, I'm not steeped in a lot of experience or knowledge on the subject. Obviously, I'm got a degree in theater. I'm an actor. I've done lots of Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. Shakespeare is the number one poem. I mean, I'm memorized a bunch of the sonnets. I've that would obviously be the number one poet for me that I've experienced with. But Shel Silverstein.
Oh, so
right?
Good. Yeah.
And I love somebody posted like a Yeats poem or the greats. You read their poem and you're like, why am I not reading poetry all the time? But it's just not something I take time to sit down, and I'm just going to sit in the chair and uncork a new book of poems. That's not how I roll.
I feel like there are people like every once in a while that I know that will share a poem that they like. And I think I very much agree with you that a really good poem, it'll like sit with me, and I'll be like, I'll think about it all day, especially because so many, the ones that sit with me are short. They just sort of capture you. And I love that feeling. But I think I love, I know it's a different medium, but in its own way, probably my greatest poem infusion is kind of like songs and song lyrics. And if I'm going to experience it, I most likely want to experience it like that than versus anything else. Or possibly in like, I don't know, like some kind of limerick.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I guess I am a poet. I'm a published poet. Boy, I really buried the lead on that. Really should have started there. Who's my favorite poet? Me.
Oh yeah, I've heard of poems before. Jeff Canada.
I'm not really into poems other than writing and publishing a book of them. I don't sit and read books of poems, but I hope other people will, because I'm selling one right now.
Is it right there?
That's summed up. Available wherever you get fine books of poetry.
Beautiful.
What a dummy I am.
I didn't even think about it when you brought it.
Either. We're doing this whole thing about poems, and I'm like, oh man. This is why I am not successful.
Poems, not for me.
Not really my bag. Oh wait, except I write them literally every week, almost every day. You can buy a poem. I will write you a poem right now if you go to cameo.com/Jeff Canada. Selling poems. They're limericks. So,
So specific type of poem.
Very specific kind of poem.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyway,
Sorry.
we're starting a new book, Dust of Dreams.
Woo!
Let's jump in. Spoilers starting now. Thanks again, Travis, for sending that
Thank you.
DLC feedback at gmail.com if you'd like to have us embarrass ourselves in different ways. All right. Or just me, really. Prologue, Dust of Dreams. Starting off. Prologues in Malazan are always so interesting, right? He's kind of, the foreshadowing is huge. He's kind of pointing in the direction of where we're headed, giving us a little bit of flavor and some often new characters. New characters here in Dust of Dreams, we start. It's pretty bleak, Lana. It's pretty bleak. We got Rut, and who's the other one? But I don't know how to pronounce it. Badale.
Badale.
I'm going with Badale. Rut is easy to pronounce. And Rut is carrying a baby that he calls Held. Things are very bad, very sad. They are basically starving. They're on in a line evoked for me, I'm sure for you too, the chain of dogs, right? But they're calling this one the snake. They're at the head of the snake, which is this long train of, I guess,
children.
Yeah, it's the lost children. Feels very Peter Pan, to me, the Lost Boys.
The children in the snake. Are these? Do we know these children?
Oh, interesting question. I didn't get that sense that these are any children we've met before.
Yeah, I just feel like we've seen like so many different pockets of children.
Yes.
That I'm always like, is that them? No, they were defending the cave. Is that them? I have no idea. Like the people who escaped the Kellic town. That would be crazy that there'd be a million of them now. Just no.
Well, one of the things we know about Malazan is that it's not a great place to be a kid.
True.
So more kids having bad times is par for the course.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a bunch of new terms that were introduced here. Starvers, ribbers. I'm not really sure what all those are. The fathers. There's a bunch of cannibals that are evidently eating children, which is delightful. Anyway, bad times. Badale, if that's what we're calling her, very appropriate based on our non-spoiler topic, only speaks in poems, which is an interesting affectation. But characters that I assume we will return to.
How do you spell Badale?
Badalle.
All right. I would say
Badale.
Badal.
What did you say?
Badal, I think.
Badal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yes, we know that things are bad for them. We kind of leave them and head into another new character, Calith, who lives in the wastelands. It seems the wastelands are going to be a central location for this novel, or at least one of prominence. And all of a sudden, we're in a sci-fi novel.
It's so funny that you just said that. I feel like you were reading my mind. We're in a sci-fi novel, and my brain was like, Caliph, isn't that like something that sounds a lot like the Klingons' god guy? Kalis? Anyway, sorry. I was just thinking about that when you said it. I don't think those are related. Please continue.
I got a very Aliens vibe, Newt living on the ship by herself with the alien, aliens, plural, because Calith is basically, we meet her sort of running through these tunnels, and there's cables, and it feels very high-tech machinery. There's big holes in the floor that she's leaping over, and she sees all these K'chain Shamal. They're basically birthing an army in these tunnels. Super cool.
In like a horrifying Orokai kind of way, where it's like, but they're all coming from like a brood mother. And Caliph, because she's running around. She's in the safety of like, what she call it? I forget what she calls the sort of inner part of this, the place that
The
she's
root.
in. The root. She's in the
Yeah.
root. It's in my brain. I don't know if it's crashed or if it's actually just built into this area, but like I could change them all. We saw that their bodies were the ones that made like the controllable moon spawn
Yep.
controllers. So I don't know if this is like a crash, one of those things that now is like their home, or if this was actually just built into wherever they are. But she talks about how all of everything around her was built for a body that was not like hers. So she is this little human scampering around in Lizard Town.
Scampering around in Lizard Town. And so it's the root. Another section is the heart, the eyes, like a really interesting, we have this sort of culture of the Kachin Shamal that we've never really been exposed to before.
Yeah.
And she is evidently designated as the destriant.
Fascinating.
Very fascinating. And this is another sort of bleak situation where the matron is saying, hey, we lose all our wars. We're terrible at wars. You know who's good at wars? You human creatures are. So I need you to go off and find a shield anvil and a mortal sword. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that.
She's like, I'm not special.
Yeah.
Like her whole thing is like the beginning is that she was not significantly good at anything.
Yeah.
And so her being selected for this role is like a role not of like, it's a role of great significance. And she's like, that's the antithesis of what I am. And so
the crazy thing for me too is this perspective. Every time Kel Hunter has shown up or the Kachin Shamal at all have shown up, it's like they are the supreme death deliverers of all time, right? They own you. Just one or two of them slaughter thousands. They're good at killing stuff. And then the matron's like, we're terrible at war. It's like, wow, that's interesting. I find that very insightful. And it's the kind of thing that we get a lot in these novels where it's like, oh, everybody's perspective is so limited and they don't understand the full context of everything. It's like, oh, the Talana Moss are so evil. It's like, no. We come to learn more about all these species.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the next scene we actually get from the perspective of one of the Kachin Shamal, this Shigal Gurul, who is thousands of years old, doesn't think much of old Caliph and doesn't think much of humans. They're frail, they're weak, they've been nonstop disappointment, like our last mortal sword, Red Mask.
Oh my gosh, things clicking into place. Like, why is he hanging out with those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, he's working for him.
I love how they like, hey, can you be our mortal sword? And then they're just like, this guy sucks.
Yeah. Eventually it's like clear. Oh, he's become unhinged. All right. Well,
yeah.
Slice and dice, baby.
So anyway, seems like the Kachin Shamal are going to be a big part of whatever happens in this final act of the series.
Mm-hmm.
We also are introduced to some sort of unnamed spirit person that can leap from body to body.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very cool. Don't know what to make of that. But they are sort of moving with this group of people leaping between their psyches. The group is made up of Seb, Last, Asane, Napit, Breath, Rautos, and Taxilian.
Mm-hmm.
Those last two names I recognize, and I don't remember why.
Oh, darn. I was really hoping that you would provide the deets on that one because I felt the same way.
I definitely know we've hung out with Rautos and Taxilian.
Taxilian is either the guy who is like part of the religion of joking but not laughing or whatever that is, or the painter.
Boy, neither of those sound right to me. But I thought he was Taxilian.
We could just look at the persona.
We could do any amount of work.
Could have looked it up before we got here.
Anyway, this group doesn't know where they are, doesn't know where they're going. They see a big structure and they're like, might as well go there. So interesting. They're kind of bumming around.
It doesn't say who they are. It just says their names in the.
Right. Well, I'm sure it will become clear.
It's fine.
And folks will let us know if we need to know right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we have this odd moment from the point of view of a cape moth looking down at a big green tusked creature carrying a sword, a lone wanderer who spoke in 7 voices. Don't know who that is, but clearly a, whatchamacallem, tusked.
Yeah. The jagged.
And then finally, the last scene of the prologue is a person who we come to find out is Heboric. Ghost Hands himself, who realizes that bad stuff is about to happen. It's bad things. But he also realizes he is powerful. He says, I am justice. I see now with the eyes of the abyss, with my enemy's eyes, and so I shall speak with its voice. I am justice, and when at last we meet, you will not like it. So Heboric is coming back, baby. Heboric.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the prologue. Lots of, I'm fine with not knowing what all that adds up to because it's prologue stuff. Chapter 1. We start with the proliferation of two-headed bugs. Two-headed bugs. Did Tehal and Bug create that bug, or did they just capture one of them?
They just had the supposed last of the species.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't assume they created it, but he's God, so who knows?
Yeah.
Very
funny.
It is immediately like, oh, I know who's going to be in this book.
It's like, yeah, it's so awesome. It does seem like an invasive species now, because it's all these lizards are eating them, and they're eating so many that literally they don't know that it's not good for them. An owl, it's interesting stuff.
It's interesting because it's from the perspective of the owl being like, look at these foolish lizards.
Yeah,
they don't even know. Look at them; they're already sluggish. And the bugs are going to burst from their stomachs because they're going to eat from the inside out. Meanwhile, he's eating the lizards that ate the bugs. Yeah. It's cute.
I don't know why they swallowed a fly. I'll have to ask why. All right. Then we have what I found to be a pretty fun return to our bone hunters, our Malazan army. The way we find them, which is they're sort of on this mission, this very intense hunting down their quarry. We start with Smiles and Throat Slitter, who just escaped. Then we meet up with Bottle and Korik and Tar and Korab. I'm so excited to see Korab again. Maybe and Masan Galani. They're also tracing this quarry. They got to get it.
Feels like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's out.
Full mission.
You gotta lock it in.
That's right. And somebody says something about we're gonna stab. They're like, we gotta take him alive. What are you doing? We're taking him alive.
One of them goes, we are?
Yeah. Obviously come to find out that it's Fiddler that they're trying to capture, who's just trying to run away because he doesn't want to do a reading with the deck of dragons.
Broke his knee on Gessler's face. He clocks Stormy, throws down the smoke bomb from the old sapper sack, and then legs it out there, ready to beat the crap out of all his allies so he doesn't have to go do this reading. So petulant. Immediately describing Fiddler, we've seen more glimpses of him and his graying hair and just sort of aging through the books, and he's still no, baby don't wanna.
I totally love how the Bone Hunters, the previously Bridge Burners, the Malazan army in general is always they are the baddest ass of the badasses. They are an elite force of highly trained, incredible soldiers, and they're also total goofballs. I love that. I just love that so very much in all these novels. So they get Fiddler. So you gotta go to these adjunct. Tavor wants you to do this reading. He's like, do I have to? And they're like, yep.
I like
and-
picturing that he doesn't actually stand up and that he just pouts and they just physically carry him the entire way.
Yeah, it's so great. Then we check in with Sin and Grub, two characters that I thought was really cool to see again, especially sort of just them by themselves
and having a chatty old time,
having a little sparks of romance potentially,
a little crushy crush.
The thing about Sin and Grub is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think every time we've ever encountered them, it's always been from somebody else's point of view and how, strange and extraordinary they are. Like Sin, whoa, wow, she's really powerful. And Grub, well, what? He knows stuff. Why does he know stuff? It's cool that we stick them together and we're sort of inside their experience.
And even them sort of sussing each other up in that same way. But it is not why is this child? So it's like, ugh, that's too easy for you. And how do you know these things? Can't you just tell me why you know these things? It's like this childish, the openness with each other.
Totally. I love it. And they both think the other is, quote, what's coming, which is interesting. But they're at this dead Azath house, and Sin says she looks at Grub and thinks Makra, which is really interesting. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Pors has been assigned to sort of keep tabs on them and surveil them from secret hiding spot. And he's watching as they walk into the Azath house. And he's like, wow, that's Sin. She can talk. She actually can talk. She just doesn't want to. Ugh. And also he's like, she likes that Grub. There's a little something going on.
I like that he's like, I learned 2 pieces of hot goss. One of them, everybody actually would be like, oh my gosh. And the other being like, and she's got a crush. It's like such a funny piece of gossip for that adult person to take away.
It's really funny.
That. But also the fact that he's like, here's the 2 things I learned. But listened enough to know those pieces, but not enough to register the hornet's nest outside the door.
It's so funny where he's like, well, gotta leave. Wank. Bonk. Just gets stung all to hell from black wasps.
Mm-hmm.
Very funny.
Which should kill a horse.
Yes.
And he's just running, trying to find a healer.
Meanwhile, in the house, Sin starts a fire in the fireplace. And Grub's like, I didn't even feel you open a warren for that.
Yeah. I also love that they were just like, who's that guy? And they're like, glad he didn't come in here.
That's so funny. Did you see that guy is running from the wasp's nest? Yeah. That's weird. That's funny. I just love him like hiding and like, all right, no one heard me here. Bonk. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So then they see a Forkrel Assail body. And Grub's like, I know what that is. And Sin's like, why do you know what that is?
Can you just tell me what thing in your life let you know what this ancient skelly bones is, please?
Yeah. And then some really sort of ominous dialogue here where he says, everything's changing. You, me, the Azath, it's all changing, everything. And then Sin is like, maybe I'll just use my firepower to break the world just to see if I can.
I know I'm powerful, but am I like powerful enough to be an apocalypse?
Yeah.
Should I find out? Should I go crazy?
Let's see, man. I don't know. It's kind of a fun thing to know. Yeah.
Felt cute. Might delete the world later.
Well done. Excellent. All right. The next scene, we're back with our faves. Tehal and Bug.
Ooh.
King Tehal.
The only.
King Tehal, the only. It's very funny. Not the first.
The only.
The only. Ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna be any more. And just this hilarious scene where Rucket is still hot for Tehal, and literally like right in front of his wife, they're talking about like, should we get it on? Can we get it on? What's acceptable? Hugs, kisses? What we got? What can we do?
Yeah, there's also a lovely scene with Tail and Bug. I think just before that, of like in just the privacy of their side rooms or whatever. I pulled it from one of my quotes because it's just like really well. I mean, everything about them is well done, but
Yeah.
the quickness and like the length of the scene being this like it almost. As soon as I get into Tehal Bug Zone, it almost feels to me like the type of sitcom comedy where it's like, Kramer busting through the door and everybody's like, ah! That's like what my brain does when I see the names on the page.
Yeah. Yeah, but the takeaway here is that Bug is also worried about this Deck of Dragons reading, which
yes,
sounds like a terrible idea from every perspective, and yet Tavor is like, got to do it.
Tavor's mysterious tactical ways, everybody's like,
yeah,
I guess so.
I guess we're doing it. And Brice Bedek is there too. Brice is suffering his brother as usual, but Tehal says, you got to go warn the Malazans. Tell him, this is a bad idea. I just love all the stuff with Janeth and Ruckett, and how Janeth is just like not going to be baited into this. She's like, sure,
should I
do
go
it.
get my kisses in?
Yeah.
If that's what we're doing, that's the arrangement.
Hey, let's do this. It's very funny.
I also love that Tehal, like so many of the like actual serious things he says happen just off screen, where he's like, oh my gosh, here's this whole thing. Bruce, I'll walk you to the door.
Yeah.
And that he's delivering like important news. That he has like this serious side to him for like the whole way that he built up this road to power of living so destitute and laundering money to save people and be able to sort of cause this collapse. But other than that, like one scene with Janeth where he's like sort of being very revealing and being like, he really should have gotten away. Like, we don't really get that seriousness to him, but we know it's laced through everything that he does.
It's all so good. It's all so good when he's like, what do you need, Brice? Do you need money? Just take money. What do you need? Just take the money. Get the soldiers. What do you need? It's all so great.
I think he's like, you need boots? Take money for boots. And he's like, we don't need boots. We want to hire an army. And he goes, who won't wear boots? Wow.
An army without boots?
It's like,
very funny.
You said, no.
It's so funny. It's just delightful banter. All right. So then we're back to Pores, who's looking for a healer and or is talking to the healer and wakes up as the healer is healing him and is like, hey, maybe you should also heal Captain Kindly, who's got literal blood blisters on his testicles. Just so disturbing. And then the healer's like, hey, Nep Furrow, stop cursing Captain Kindly with blood blisters on his testicles.
This other mage guy who's like basically incomprehensible, being like, they're gonna fall off. Kindly, obviously, biggest jerk in the army.
Yeah.
He wakes up Lieutenant Pores and is like, all right, you're awake. You better heal up so that I can beat the crap out of you for failing your mission. Now I gotta find these kids myself.
It's just so funny that Kindly just is such a jerk, but then also just like, man, what bad luck that I keep getting these these riding sores on my testes.
I
and
love
this is somebody like back there like, oh, I hate him so much.
I love that, and I also love that Kindly actually wanting everybody to be checked out to see if it's like a thing that everybody has. He's using it as like punishment for the mage who's like being a little bit sassy, and he's like, "What was that? Is my hearing bad? Do you call my hearing bad? Right now, go over check everybody's balls, please. Thank you."
So fun. All right, so we have another new character, Preda Norlo Trum. By the way, Trum with a B.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
The immediate description of Trum with a B.
Yeah. I mean,
I
could
read
not
it.
be more perfect, right?
Immediately thought of you. I immediately thought of you.
I was like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah, I knew as I was reading it, I could picture your reaction to reading it.
I mean, we have to ask Steven about that because Trum with a B. Just flip it upside down and it works. He's a real
Piece of
dummy
work.
dum dodo head. Yeah, piece of work. Better way of saying it. The Malazans have confronted him and said, "Hey, give us these prisoners." And he's like, "No, they're sentenced to death. Nothing I can do about it." He's like, "No. Give them to us." All of his guards are like, "Yeah, give them to him, you idiot." And he's like, "Nope, not going to do it." And then Skull Death puts a little brain hex on him, makes him turn over these prisoners who wander out looking, completely
Emaciated.
malnourished. Yeah, just awful. They haven't been feeding him. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, we have reduced rations to any prisoner on death row." It turns out that it is Sinter and Kissware, the two sisters. And we have those other two Malazans who accidentally shoot their crossbow bolts into either ear of. So we literally have a Trumb who gets shot in the ear.
I mean, that is obviously an insane circumstance.
I mean, we have to ask Mr. Erikson.
The book wasn't written this year.
Steven, what portal into the future do you have?
Just one piece of work detaining people who don't deserve it, getting their ears shut off.
It's it's what? What am I supposed to get? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What year was this book written? All right. So then we check in with Banishar, Tellerast and Curdle, our little reptilian former dragon spirit things.
Now just as mighty.
That's right. And they're being, typically ridiculous.
Chaotic.
Yeah. And they come up with some sort of promise to give Banishar power. They're like, "Do what we ask, we'll give you power. Power beyond your imagining." He's like, "Seriously? We're going to make a pact. Make it it's happening. There's no take backsies.
I'm going to pinky promise with your dismembered leg."
That's right. And then it is revealed that in the corner of this entire conversation the whole time was the errant sitting there as well. So Banishar, the errant, and Tellerast and Curdle up to no good. The errant's really being painted as a villain
Baddie.
here.
Yeah. The question I thought, Tellerast and Curdle, I would assume that they would be able to sense the errant just because they are weird, ancient, semi-magic-y spirit things. But the errant does that thing where he just kind of blends in. Did the errant watch that all happen from the privacy of his little pocket of hiddenness that he was doing in the court for so long? Or did they very well know he was present?
I read it as the latter. I thought that we, the readers, were not privy to the fact that the errant was there the whole time, but everybody else in the room was. That's how I read it, but it may very well be what you're saying, because it's absolutely true that he had that ability in the court that we saw time and time again. So it's possible that no one knew he was there. Although Banishar,
well, I imagine that he could control that in some way. If he was talking with Banishar and letting Banishar know, "I'm going to be here," strike a deal with these two. I don't know how calculated it is. But it feels pretty calculated.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, we're back to the Malazans, Feridan Sort, Lestara Yill. I mean, just people that I love, just characters coming back. It's just wonderful to jump into this new book. It's like all these characters that we sort of set aside for an entire novel. We're back, all of them. Wonderful names, just stirring all these great associations that I have.
Mm-hmm.
They are, rounding up all the folks that need to be present at this reading. It's not clear to me why all these people need to be present at the reading yet, but I'm certain we'll get more insight into that.
There's a mysteriousness about the Deck of Dragons readings and people being there that to me is just sort of a magical agency that I don't know if I would ever understand. It feels intrinsic to the people who want it to happen just
Yeah.
every single time that it's happened.
Well, I love this moment where Brees walks past Faradan's store and Lestara Yale, and both of them are like,
Hey, Dad. Hey, hello, undead daddy.
well.
He's
looky
not undead. He's
here.
just back to life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, technically undead, but not undead.
But you, like the way being in Brees's brain, it is so not a characterization of his that he's like a womanizer in any fashion.
Right.
That even like in the next scene, he goes and talks to the adjunct, but he's like, he smiled at the adjunct and she took a pause. He goes, which is not unusual. That happens most times. I smile at women.
Yeah,
but he's not like
to it, or he's not.
He's like aware enough that he's like, oh right.
Yeah.
But not in the way that he is boastful or in some way. That's just not a part of like what he cares to be, but it is so interesting to see all the
ladies are like, oh, it's Stone Cold Fox.
the human version of like Masan Galani's butt on a horse or whatever.
That's right. That's totally what it is.
The full meal deal.
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes in, talks to Vor. He's like, hey, this whole Deck of Dragons thing, terrible idea. In fact, there's this god called the Errant, who is the old master of tiles, which is what your Deck of Dragons used to be called.
Mm-hmm.
And he will be awakened if you mess with the Deck of Dragons. So maybe we should not do. That's exactly what he wants to happen. We should not do that. And she's like, well, I'm still doing it. And she's like, who's saying that I shouldn't do it? And he's like, well, this fellow Bug. And she's like, Bug, the manservant of the king. He's like, well, think of him more as the Sita, the high mage. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that carries a little bit more weight. But
I like how everybody's like, yeah, but if it's like an elder god, though, like the status doesn't matter like that much. And he's like, well, actually, it'll still be fine.
Yeah, I love how Brees is like being real cagey about it. It was like let's just trust him. Maybe let's just trust this guy.
Like, I was dead. I trust him.
Yeah, I know he sounds like a real frivolous guy. I get it.
Doesn't the adjunct say something like, I remember him being described as quaint or like cute or something? Oh, adorable.
Oh, yeah. Adorable.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, an adorable old man's like, well, I'm going to take on the Errant.
It's so funny. I just rewatched The Karate Kid with my son and my whole family, really, because we're going to go see the new one. And I wanted them to see a Karate Kid. Bug is Mr. Miyagi, right? He's like just an unassuming, just working on his bonsai trees, but then he's also badass when he needs to be,
Isn't Mr. Miyagi strict though?
Isn't he what?
Is it Mr. Miyagi like strict, or it's just only strict when they get into training about like making sure
he's only strict when he gets into training. Yeah. It's a strained metaphor, but it's recent in my brain, so I was thinking about that. But he's like, this short little unassuming kind of older guy, and
little cutie pie.
He can take down all the kids in their skeleton Halloween costumes when he needs to. All right.
I also love the end of this scene with Brees and the adjunct. She's like, anyway, duly noted. Do you want to come? I am doing the reading no matter what.
Yeah.
Can I offer you some wine? And Brees just being like, I don't drink wine anymore. It's like,
it's so good. So good. He's like, I swore off that stuff that killed me. You know what? There was a time when I'd take any old cup that anybody offered me.
Exactly. And now it's like, okay, you got ale. I'll take it with I'll unseal the bottle myself. Thank you.
That's right. Fool me once.
Death on me.
Such a great little tidbit. I just love that.
To me, that made him even more like anime protagonist is unaware of his cuteness to the ladies, being like,
It's great. And she's like, how about you protect me? And he's like, all right. I could take down the errant with my swordsmanship because I'm that awesome.
And she's like, aren't you? How does that? Well, okay, we're just gonna ride with this.
Yeah, very cool. Then we check back in. We check in with Quick Ben and Hedge, and Hedge is being weird as usual, and Quick Ben kind of doesn't trust him, which is continues this whole like, what is Hedge's
Deal
exactly?
I love how it was broken down into being like, look, it wasn't even just like, okay, you came back to life. I guess we've seen that in a couple ways. He's like, it's that your clothes are all stitched together. Like,
Yeah.
I know that shirt was the same shirt you wore. I've seen it a million times. Not even the best freaking tailor out there is weaving that thing back together, picture perfect. Why the clothes? Like, even if you were just wearing different clothes, I would understand things more. And he's like, let's not dwell. A lot of people.
He didn't even answer. He just changes the subject immediately.
Yeah.
He's just like, we should probably go in that room with those people. And I was like, nah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then we have this very funny scene where Captain Kindly is like threatening a dog. Very funny. It feels very authentic to the way people talk to their dogs. It's like, if you poop in the house one more time, I am going to, it's like the dog doesn't understand what you're saying, but it's very funny. The level, the extremity with which he describes the potential, what he's going to do with his hide. I'm going to turn you into a cod piece and all this stuff. Very funny.
And also just the dog sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like its own teeth are so splintered and shattered that it's cutting up its own gums, so it's frothing its own blood mouth. And then the little guy, the little lapdog, comes out and tries to lunge at him because he's like learning the cattle dog ways, and he just like punches the little dogs. It's like, yay!
These, of course, are Bent and Roach.
Roach.
No,
Roach.
The two dogs from the Dead House Gates from the chain of dogs.
Yeah.
Still persevering. It's been fun.
Thriving.
Yeah. All right. So then we meet up with Saren Pedak, who's full with child.
Do we end that scene before they walk in, or does it go the whole dog scene?
Dog scene, they go into the reading, right? They go
but he was trying to get the dogs so that he could find Sin and
right. And they walk in right at the end. They're like, "Hey, what are you doing with that dog?" And he's like, I'm looking for you, idiots."
Yeah.
So Saren Pedak, pregnant with Troll Sengar's child from their one night together, and Bug shows up and is like, "Hey, good news, bad news." Good news is I'm here. Bad news is it turns out the errant will probably want to kill your unborn child as a way to strike his enemies.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. More bad news is the father of your child was the Knight of Shadow. And not that he wanted to be, but sort of happens. And guess what? That's a heritable title. And your kid's going to be the Knight of Shadow. So, congrats, I guess.
But also watch your back. But I can defend you as somebody you can think of as the Zeta. And then we have the same sort of conversation again where she's like, but if it's an elder god, like, you can't protect me. And he's like, I think I can. But if you're worried about it, we can get back up.
Well, my favorite thing is the way Saren reacts to this, because she just takes no guff from anybody. And she's just like, oh, really? So he's the knight in the House of Shadows. So there's a king of the House of Shadows? Bring him here right now. Like, get him here. I want to talk to him. And Bug's like, that is a tremendously bad idea. You don't know who that is, and I do, and it's bad. So let's not do that. She's like, no. If they're coming after my baby, I want to talk to him.
Because one of the things is interesting that I didn't really think about at the time, because the holds have always been around, but Saren is not of Malaz.
Right.
And so the familiarity, like Deck of Dragons, like all those things, like
she doesn't
even
Yeah.
has to be like, so there's like a new version. It's like 2.0 of the holds, but it's the cards and explaining everything. So she wouldn't be like, oh yeah, how's Shadow Throne? She's like, who the hell's that guy? I'm gonna beat him up.
Exactly. Screw that guy. Get him up. Call him down here, right? I want to speak to your manager right now.
Yeah, Sarah and hair cropped real short at the back.
Her name is Karen Pedak.
So funny. Really good.
So we eventually find out who. I like how Bug is like. So here's the thing. I can get you some. So if I call certain people, everybody is going to know about it because there's of a certain power level that like word gets around immediately. We get it. Mm-hmm. So here's what I can do. I can get you like the B team. They'll still be helpful and still protect you. You're not going to like
super powerful.
You're not going to like them at all, but they'll be here. They're people I can call. She's like, all right, do it. So before we get there, though, we have a little scene where Fiddler and Bottle are talking, and Fiddler's like, hey, dude, Bottle, what's up? What do you sense? And Bottle's like, bad things. Stuff that was sleeping is going to wake up. This is all a terrible idea. He's like, there's one thing that has to happen. We cannot have 13 people at this reading.
If there's anything, it's like 11, already bad number. 12, even worse. 13 is the only thing that is. It should not happen. All of it shouldn't. But if there's anything that really shouldn't.
Bob's like, yeah, no, I counted. There's 11. There's 11. It's 11. That's how many it is. Don't need to worry, dude. 11. I counted them all up. He's like, all right, but if there's 13, I'm gonna be mad. Cut to numbers 12 and 13. No, we have Ersto Hubat and Pinnacell are back, baby.
Oh again, my God.
How wrong could I have been when we first saw them, thinking they were just throwaway little fun cameo characters?
Just cuties. Nope. Yeah.
Hugely powerful. We find out that they are actually the Lord and Lady of Wine and Beer.
Some of the eldest gods.
Yeah.
And like a little history about grain in the region, and something that I suspect probably reflects how things were on planet Earth of like, well, beer was invented before bread was because it was nutritious and it was
so awesome. Erikson gives us a little history lesson, just throw a little real history lesson in there. Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So great.
Yes.
They're just like stinky and gross. They like walk in and Sarah's like, they immediately
hammered, like
wasted
ripped out of their mind.
Yeah.
So funny. And they're just like being crass and awful about, Saren and Ersto is like, man, I couldn't even get it up. And he's like, I probably could with you. And she's like, oh, gross. It's very funny. And then they totally spill the beans and they're like, that Bug dude, total elder god. Did you not get that? Did you not get that he was an elder god? Like even older than we are.
We called him elder. Like,
yeah.
You thought that he was the Seta?
They just have no chill. Just no chill at all. Just blowing up his spot.
It's also so funny to have like these two incredibly drunk people being like, you want a glass? And she's like 6 months pregnant. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Very funny. So anyway, we find out that more people are being added to the reading. Fiddler is not happy. Then back to Banishar, who sees the constellations, the literal stars in the sky are changing. They're turning green. And there is some disagreement because the errant is like, well, guess what? I'm going to have to kill some folks. And Banishar's like, you promised me no violence, man. He's like, yeah, well, I did back when things were one way, but now they've changed.
But now Brees is there.
Yeah.
That's what was my assumption anyways, that
I think
Brees
you're right.
was like, cracking his knuckles, waiting for the errant to show up, and the errant is afeared.
Yes. And we find out in the very last scene of this chapter that the errant is the 13th attendee of the Deck of Dragons. And if he had known that, he would have run for the hills. He would have left. This is very bad.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting detail because you'd think that, you know, in a space like this where there's two forces, two opposing forces, you know, not necessarily good and evil, the people
Right.
we perceive as good, the person that we perceive as being sinister.
Right.
You're like, oh, 13, the errant, you'd think that the errant would lean into that 13 thing because he is
If
the
it's
one
bad
who's
for one side, it's good for the other. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the idea that number 13, oh, no, it is objectively bad.
It's bad for all parties involved. Yes.
Fascinating. A
agree.
fascinating part to that.
100% agree with that. I had the same feeling of like, oh, he doesn't want 13. Like, it's so bad that even the guy who kind of doesn't want things to go well for these folks thinks it's bad. Yeah.
And then this whole bit about the stars turning green.
Yeah.
I don't know. The fact that Heberick's here, stars
Yeah.
turning green.
Jade hands, jade suns. Yeah. Jade gods.
A bunch of jade stuff fell from the sky however long ago now. I'm like, I think we're seeing more jade stuff.
Yeah, indeed. Totally. All right. Chapter 2. Another of our old faves, Udnas, standing there staring at Silchus Ruin, who Silchus has really been humbled between novels, or as a result of the events of 2 novels ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I got regrets, man. I really do. And we have this really kind of lovely series of scenes musing on parenthood, fatherhood specifically. Udnas, who's a dad now, with Rudd Alale, Paul Rudd Alale. We have Onrak, whose wife is pregnant as well, and he's sort of thinking about what it's going to be like to be a dad.
Because he lost his first kid, right? Because his first kid was brash and like just ran into battle ill-equipped. Right. And interesting because they're thinking sort of a lot about their, you know, we get like, it's almost like a little walk back through the time that we have spent with them so far and like some of this time in between. But part of that time is Udnas being entirely suspicious of Silchus, and he's even thinking about like, I tried to stab that guy.
Yeah.
And now they're in this situation where Silchus is, you know, he's introduced as this mysteriously as like a figure that just hasn't moved the entire time that Udnas has been looking at him, and revealed to be Silchus. And so there's immediate sort of tension there of what's he doing here? What's going on?
And then Udnas just walks over and talks to him. And Silchus is like, hey, your son is in danger. I need to talk to him. But I can't because he's got dragon blood. I've got dragon blood. This doesn't really work out. We're lone wolves, Dottie. We're dragons don't hang. Dragons, ride solo.
They destroy. So they are so inherently selfish, having this blood of Elaine, that's the reason that Menendor and her 2 sisters couldn't get it together, and that Quickman could destroy them because they were going to start snapping at each other, which they did.
Well, but this also, I think, recontextualized for me, or not even recontextualized, but just sort of made sense. It made it make sense more. All the stuff we learned in Toll the Hounds about Animander and how like taking the Elent blood into himself was a big deal. And ultimately led to he and his siblings not being able to get along.
Yeah.
Like we literally can't get along because now we got dragon blood inside us.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really a interesting notion. And it makes all that stuff become clearer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Onrak sees Silchus and Udnas chatting it up and is like, that doesn't seem good.
They're talking for way longer than I thought they would.
Yeah. And they're all in the refugium, and this place, this peaceful place, and
which is the place that they stabbed Kettle that got rooted.
Right. Yes.
The Azoth House made it a real place, but it was sort of the Imaginarium before.
Yes.
Where the Lana Moss could become real boys again.
Yeah. Anyway, so we cut away as they're chatting it up, and Onrak is just sort of thinking about, being a dad, and thinking about Kalava, his wife, thinking about Saren Pedak and Troll Sengar, and kind of as you said, sort of walking back all the stuff that's happened. Then we transition to a brand new character, Shield Anvil Tanakalian of the Parish Grey Helms. This is a really interesting dynamic. This is a shield anvil. We meet the Destriant and the Mortal Sword, all of them assigned for the Parish Grey Helms. But I find them so fascinating. So Destriant, Rune Thurvian, and the way this is set up and revealed is so interesting, because we kind of get an entire scene where I don't really know, or at least I didn't really know what was going on. And then the next scene, it sort of reveals retroactively what happened there.
Did we have I could have sworn we've met Runthurvian before. Maybe there's a different apostrophe Thurvian. But I remember that name, but almost no other context about that person. But I could be.
You could be completely right. I didn't recognize it, but I mean, Tanakalian certainly recalls Brookalian. I think there's a intended.
Oh yeah.
Recollection there with the names being sort of thematically similar.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's a strange moment, because we have Tanakalian go into to meet Runthurvian, and Runthurvian literally melts. Doesn't melt. He does melt. He melts right in front of him, and while sort of spouting out all these ominous, predictions of what's going to happen, he says, "She is not as we believed. The vow, we have made a mistake." And the shield anvil is supposed to embrace him. Like, that's the whole job.
Yeah.
The shield anvil is supposed to embrace him. And Destriant's like, "No, you're not embracing me."
It's like, "You're nothing."
Yeah.
I did look it up. Runthurvian is in one of our books.
Oh, okay. I did not catch that. I didn't recall that.
Yeah, it is in. I just lost it. Sorry. It's in the Bone Hunters.
Interesting. Well, he's a puddle of goo now.
Yeah.
Really disturbing death, where he just sort of
goos out, and he'd already been gooing.
Yeah.
He'd been gooing for a minute.
Yeah.
Gooing gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Icky. But between those moments we have, or after that moment, we have we check in with Yed and Derek, the Watch. Really, really like this scene where the Watch is like, who I hate? Stupid people.
Yeah.
Ugh, stupid people are so stupid. Why do I have to deal with so many stupid people? So exhausting.
Sometimes I highlight quotes, and as I'm highlighting it, I'm like, Jeff's
got this one. It's true. It's true.
He's like, he kind of has like a similar vibe to the in Midnight Tides, when we're first in Letherus, to that guy who's like, people with confidence, or they're so certain. They're so certain of things. It's almost a similar vibe, but with like, in the sense that he's like, stupid people are so stupid. But you know who else sucks? Smart people, because they're so stupid.
Yeah.
And the scary people are the people who are kind of like not really smart, but also not really dumb.
Yeah.
And they fool everybody into thinking they're both.
So good. And we find out that he murdered all of the Shake witches and warlocks.
Which is
except save for 2.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when we even got the Shake, they're like, we're an endangered species.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's part of the Shake, but he's more a part of the Watch than he is a part of the Shake. Or he sees that the responsibility that he's undertaking is part of his job as the watch of the Sheikh, is preserving it in this way, and protecting
his sister,
queen.
protecting his sister, right? The queen, who is not too happy that he murdered literally all of her subjects, all of her people. She's like, I'm the queen of 3 people. What? This is not good.
Yeah.
So
it would have been 4, but I guess you're banished, you jerk.
Got to get out of here, man. You murdered all my people.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, all those people were planning to kill you. She's like, technicality. They're still my people.
Yeah.
So she banishes him. And then we have this scene with the 2 surviving witches, Polly and Squish, who we met previously, who are just foul, ridiculous characters, which I love. They just use urine for things.
I'll say for the first, I would say this is probably, of any of the books, the most pee that we've seen early in the book. People peeing on the hides and the pits.
Yeah.
Earliest most, like the greatest quantity of pee within the first 3 chapters of a book.
Agreed. It's a real benchmark we got to establish. So they're expressing their displeasure with their urine about. I think that actually comes later, but anyway, they're not too happy. They don't like. They find out literally that all their friends were murdered by Yedden.
Well, I think it cuts away, and they were like further inland doing something. So I think between those 2 beats, I don't know if it cuts directly to them, but they're like a half day's journey in. I forget what they said that they were doing, but in that conversation, like, can't wait to get back to the other witches to plot the downfall of the queen. They like literally confirm, what Jan, why Jan killed them all. And they're like, can't wait to get this Twilight chick out of the way so that we can go back to being the bosses. And then they get back, and then they're just so mad that they're just rage peeing on everything, including Twilight.
Rage peeing.
If you don't like aren't feeling enough feelings to have a little rage peeing now and then, are you literally living?
Are you alive? Are you
passion?
Like,
do you feel passion?
You're repressed if you're not rage peeing. All right, back to Udnas, who's like, you know what? Maybe I should let Silchus take my son away. Not for his safety, but for the safety of literally everybody else. Because my son can change into a big, bad, scary dragon. And I don't know how to teach him how to do that. It was like my dad when he realized I was left-handed. So I can't teach him how to throw a baseball, swing a bat. I can't teach him how to write. I need to find a dragon.
I can't teach him how to not want to kill and eat everything around him.
Yeah. I related a lot to that moment. So Onrak is like, that, I don't know if that's a great plan. And Udnas is like, no. I'm going to let him. I don't think Rude can go against his nature because he needs to talk to somebody who actually has been a dragon and not eaten everyone in order to learn how to do that.
I think it's interesting to tie back to the scene where he first starts talking with Silchus and building it all up and like, hey, I was not trusting this guy and I was trying to protect Kettle, even though I suspected she was probably the Azoth house. I still tried to stab Silchus so that we could save Kettle. And now he's like after another kid that's sort of in his protection, but both of them sort of coming together, knowing that this is a thing that neither of them want to do.
Yeah.
And making the choice to like, be like, I guess let's go talk to him and we're going to see what's up. And it sort of feels like they're putting, we don't see the scene where they chat it through with Rude, but you can imagine like, hey, we've got 2 options for you, kiddo.
Yeah.
You could stay here and possibly kill everybody.
Yeah.
Or you could go with Silchus and learn how to control yourself.
I got to let you go.
Yeah.
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 So then we have one of my favorite scenes of this week, which is Tanakalian thinking about the mortal sword his one of his, the trio, mortal sword, shield, anvil, destriant. He's like, the mortal sword, Krugava?
Krugava? Yeah.
I love the characterization of Krugava, who is delusions of grandeur, like hero knows she's awesome, but that's a terrible quality to have. Like, just believe, like, high on her own supply, drinking her own Kool-Aid. Like, I am awesome. And he's like, she's dangerous. That's not a good thing to be, is somebody that is so self-righteous and pompous and so believes what everybody else says about them. I loved it. I thought it was such an interesting, insightful character study.
I thought it was an interesting, insightful character study, but we also haven't really been with Krugava, so it also is biased. And based upon
very good point.
What, I forget his name immediately, Tankalian.
Yeah,
Tanakalian. His reaction to the other guy being like, we did everything wrong and you suck, by the way. And him being like, no, you suck. We know he's like a little bit petty.
Yeah.
The fact that he was going to lie about the fact that he embraced the other guy. We know that he kind of has this a seed of doubt in his perspective on how he views the world.
Or deception, duplicitousness. He's definitely, you're right. He is definitely questionable with his own motives, for sure. Yes.
So him seeing Krugava this way, I could see, that is how jealousy manifests, as being like, you just believe what people tell you. And it's like, well, don't people maybe also say that because they are a hero and they are doing good? And
interesting.
It's this, we don't know which way is right yet.
I love that. I didn't come to that, but I think you're absolutely spot on. It's a total Malazan way of thinking, where it's like, this guy thinks that. May not be entirely true.
Yeah.
I also love this. They're getting ready for this
parlay,
and they're like, hey, let's toast to a successful parlay, everybody, with the Chancellor and the Conquestor, which is a cool term. What are we drinking? Oh,
the take a sip first.
The blood of the king's 14th daughter. What?
My God.
What?
Yeah, it's always it's tradition for us for one of these things to pre-slaughter the children, so that we
show
can
how committed we are to the process. I feel like I read that and I was like, I don't know if that's the best negotiating position. Like, you killed one of your daughters, huh? Before we started?
Yeah, so you
kind of pot committed for this going well, huh? You're just you really want something. You're not walking away from the table when one of your daughter's lives was the table ante.
Yeah.
Those were table stakes. That was just the ante to get into the conversation.
I also loved it because I read that and I was like, look, you either have very few parlays or so many children.
Well, 14th daughter, I just feel like how many sons we got.
Like, how many conversations though? You know?
Yeah.
I feel like if
you got to really, really want a parlay.
You really got a parlay to bring that in. But my thought was like, that feels crazy. The math doesn't check out.
I love it though. It's such a extreme, cultural detail.
Yeah.
And then what's the second drink they drink is
They're
even
like,
more.
Oh, it's clear and sweet. They're like, yeah, it's the nectar, which is fed by the corpses of. It's like, like whatever it is, everything.
And then it's like, what's this one? This clear one. He's like, oh, that's natural spring water. It's good to wash everything down.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stick with that, please. by the third drink that's clear, they're like, what is this horrid clear stuff? They're like, oh no, that's delicious natural spring water.
And I also love that, like, anyway, now we'll bring out the food, and then like Tanakalian's internal monologue is like, what, like your other child's left breast, your son's foreleg,
you freaks, what are we eating?
Yeah.
So good. All right, so Then we sort of cut to the other side of that with Chancellor Rava and Conquestor Avalt, who are like these idiots.
Cool lies.
Yeah, they're gonna, we're gonna take everything from them and strip them down, and we'll sell their valuables and sell them off as castrated slaves. So these guys are, they're not for a parlay that requires the death of one of the daughters of the king.
Well, they were lying about that.
Oh, they were lying about that. I didn't catch that part.
At the beginning of it, the guy that's why I was like, math doesn't check out. And the guy was like, you always have been good with your flowery imagination for those things. He's like, what?
Right over my head. That went right over my head. I feel embarrassed.
No. It's
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Embellishment. It's lies and big lies and lying liars that lie. Okay. So then we cut to a servant of one of those two guys who is expecting to die, but she has already, taken all the information, relayed all the contents of their conversation to.
Yes. Before
somebody.
We get to this person, as they're talking, they're talking quite freely because all the servants serving them, they're like, we're very confident because all their tongues are cut out, so they can't talk. And even if they were reading lips, we're going to kill them all anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that sucks. But then it cuts to somebody who is spying. And it's like, oh, so their paranoia was not necessarily unfounded. It's still so brutal, good. But it's interesting. Yeah. They immediately validate that wasn't fully barbaric. It was barbaric with
it's fully barbaric, but at least it came from a place of truth.
Yes, exactly. It's fully barbaric, but not out of sheer
not
raw
unfounded.
Paranoia.
Yeah. They're awful, but also right.
They're awful, but the methods. There's
anyway, so then we come back to Pulley and Squish, who are rage peeing, and they say that Jan Tovis needs a king. She's like, for the last time, I don't want a king. I don't want a king. And they're like, pee on the walls,
on the boots, on everything.
I love that line, by the way, where she's like, it got on her boots, and she's like, which of all the places that it landed, the least bad, because it comes off the boots. It doesn't come off the walls.
The tapestries.
The tapestries, right? So good. Anyway, Jan Tovis's plan is that she's going to evacuate the island. Everybody has to leave, not just the sheikh. Everybody. The sea is rising. We got to get out of here.
Which is what her brother was saying. That's a big part of what he was saying. He's like,
he's
they weren't going to let us.
Watching the seas rise.
That's his whole thing. His whole job is to watch and be like, we got to get out of here. You don't want to get out of here? I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. She's having this conversation and realizing what she has to do and being like, I can get that. My brother was like, right.
Yeah.
But it was still the right move to banish him, because otherwise she would even lose these two possible sheikh people.
Which, not a big loss in my opinion, but we'll see.
I know. I thought the same thing. I was like, could have just finished the job.
Yeah. You know what? Round up. The final scene of the chapter is two dragons leaving the refugium, Silchus Ruin and Rude Alael, who are in their dragon form, just being dragon pals. Like, I found a dragon mentor. Oh, teach me your dragon ways, Silchus.
Udenas and Onrak are there.
Yeah.
Tears in their eyes. And the thing I think is interesting just to call out is how many times it was mentioned how much they feel as the Talon. They're crying at everything.
Oh, I loved all that. I loved all that. Onrak is like super in touch with his feelings now. And it's like everything makes him cry. I'm like, oh man, I relate. I mean,
going on
kid,
turned
me into the fountain of Wayne over here.
But going however many years, centuries, just as bone people, probably thinking feelings, but not experiencing feelings in that same way. It just is really resonant that suddenly everything sad, happy, whatever it is, tears are there. And I just thought that was a
Love
beautiful
that.
detail about them.
Glad that you brought that up. All right, we got some. I felt like I had a bunch of quotes this time. I want to. Can I start with one that's literally one phrase? It's not even a whole line, and it is so good. This one phrase, I was like, I want this to be a title of a book. I want to title the book I'm writing this phrase. It's so good. It is. It's like how people, will name, call something the undiscovered country or something, like just a phrase from Shakespeare that they pull and they make that the title of a thing. This phrase from the beginning of Dust of Dreams, the illimitable mystery of dire arcana. The illimitable mystery of dire arcana. I am so in love with that phrase. The illimitable mystery of dire arcana.
Beautiful. And tasty to say.
Tasty.
I had another sentence from the prologue. It's just a single sentencer that I love. This is the snake, the folks and the snakes, the rut. Rut is in his head. They all believed he knew where he was going, but they didn't ask him since the belief was more important than the truth, which was that he was just as lost as all the rest.
That's good. That's good.
Love it.
Yeah.
I have so many this week. Actually.
Me too.
I'm like, I'm like going through and like trying to pick my faves. I won't read it, but I had selected initially that whole initial the first epigraph. Epigraph. Yeah. Somebody put the comment of like, it sounds like a metal band. It's not the right one. That was the graveyard. And if it sounds nerdy, that's the one in the book. And I have to think that every time, like, graphs are nerdy. I forget whose comment that was, but it really has helped. Okay. So I have another one I have is the first, scene with Tay Hall and Bug that I loved.
Okay. Awesome.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Tay Hall, the only king of Lether, stepped into the room and, arms out to the side, spun in a circle, then beamed at Bug. What do you think? The manservant held a bronze pot in his battered, blunt hands. You've had dancing lessons? No, look at my blanket. My beloved wife has begun embroidering it. See there at the hem above my left knee? Bug leaned forward slightly. Ah, I see. Very nice. Very nice? Well, I can't quite make out what it's supposed to be. Me neither, he paused. She's not very good, is she? No, she's terrible. Of course, she's an academic. Precisely, Tay Hall agreed. After all, said Bug, if she had any skill at sewing and the like, she'd never settled for the scholarly route? Generally speaking, people useless at everything else become academics. My thoughts exactly. Inexactly, Bug. Now, I must ask, what's wrong? Wrong? We've known each other for a long time, said Tay Hall. My senses are exquisitely honed for reading the finest nuances in your mood. I have few talents, but I do assert, howsoever immodestly, that I possess exceptional ability in taking your measure. Well, sighed Bug, I'm impressed. How could you tell that I'm upset? Apart from besmirching my wife, you mean? Yes, apart from that. Tay Hall nodded towards the pot Bug was holding, and so he looked down, only to discover that it was no longer a pot, but a mangled heap of tortured metal. Sighing again, he let it drop to the floor. The thud echoed in the chamber. It's the subtle details, said Tay Hall.
So good.
So good.
I love the fun tongue-in-cheek swipes at academics, and it's just so delightful.
And the thing I forgot to mention when we got through the chapters, I love that Like he's still wearing the blanket as the king, but now that's the fashion of
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
people.
It's
Like some of
awesome.
the guys wearing like their one-legged pants is like being like, this is what the king wears. Yeah, that's royal fashion. I've been watching. It's so ridiculous.
It's great.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shabby chic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Derelict.
This is a scene with Korik and Bottle. Korik arrived in a sweat, scowling and grinding his teeth. Miserable turds, he muttered. What's with this lust to spend coin? Markets are stupid. Keeps people happy, says Bottle. Or if not exactly happy, then temporarily satiated, which serves the same function, which is keeping them out of trouble. The disruptive kind of trouble, he added, seeing Korik's knotted forehead, his darting eyes. The kind that comes when a population finds the time to think, really think, I mean, when they start realizing what a piece of shit it all is.
That was one I didn't highlight because I was confident that you would.
I love that. Get people spending money because everything sucks.
Yeah.
At least they're happy when they buy things for about 15 minutes.
They won't think of how bad it is here.
Yeah.
There's a long quote. Maybe I should have talked about this earlier so we could maybe break it up. This is the one I have that I did highlight is Yedin Derrig's sort of conversations or pontifications with himself about stupid people.
Oh, I definitely. There's two sections of it, and I only have the second section of it.
Yeah,
but it is. I don't know if you have
the quote I pulled started at Yedin Derrig was not a loquacious man, and goes all the way to depressed people could be ruled.
I have. Hang on. Mine started with there are too many mechanisms in society.
I'm gonna read up to there because I think it's good to. I like the whole thing very much.
It's two like big chunks, and I only picked the second. I was like, I can't have both.
Yeah,
I love we have both. Go ahead.
Okay. Yedin Derrig was not a loquacious man. He might well possess 100,000 words in his head, open to virtually infinite rearrangement, but that did not mean he labored under the need to give them voice. There seemed to be little point in that, and his experience, comprehension diminished as complexity deepened. This was not a failing of skills and communication, he believed, but one of investment and capacity. People dwelt in a swamp of feelings that stuck like gobs of mud to every thought, slowing those thoughts down, making them almost shapeless. The inner discipline demanded in order to cleanse such maladroit tendencies was usually too fierce, too trying, just too damn hard. This then marked the unwillingness to make the necessary investment. The other issue was a far crueler judgment in that it had to do with the recognition that in the world there were numerically far more stupid people than there were smart ones. The difficulty was in the innate cleverness of the stupid in disguising their own stupidity. The truth was rarely displayed as in an honest frown or sincere knotting of the brow. Instead, it was revealed in a flash of suspicion, the hint of diffidence in an offhand dismissal, or perversely muteness offered up to convey a level of thoughtful consideration which in truth did not exist. Yedin Derrig had little time for such games. He could smell an idiot from 50 paces off. He watched their sly evasions, listened to their bluster, and wondered again and again why they could never reach that essential realization was that the amount of effort engaged in hiding their own stupidity would serve them better used in cogent exercise of what little wits they possessed, assuming, of course, that improvement was even possible.
There were too many mechanisms in society designed to hide and indeed coddle its myriad fools, particularly since fools generally held the majority. In addition to such mechanisms, one could also find various snares and traps and ambushes, one and all fashioned with the aim of isolating and then destroying smart people. No argument, no matter how brilliant, can defeat a knife in the groin, after all, nor an executioner's axe. And the bloodlust of a mob was always louder than a lone, reasonable voice.
Oof. Oof. So good. So good. Yeah.
I mean, it's under assault by stupid people.
Yeah.
I
I have one more.
Wait, let me find. I have two more that I have to do.
Okay.
I have more than two, but I have two that I have to do.
What's your next one? Because they might be the same.
Well, I have the one about getting old, which is so great. And then I have the one about being a parent.
Oh, then they're not the same at all.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
This is Tenacalian. Oh, no, it is maybe. Is this the growing a bit? Sorry.
Getting old was a misery.
No, it's not the start of it.
Okay. That's fine.
I hope this is not the same thing. Okay. Few childhood convictions survived the grisly details of an adult's sensibilities. And although Tanakalian accounted himself still young, still awaiting the temper of wisdom, he had already seen enough to comprehend the true horror waiting beneath the shining surface of the self-avowed hero known to all as the mortal sword of the Grey Helms of Perish. Indeed, he had come to suspect that no hero, no matter what the time or the circumstance, was anything like the tales told him so many years ago. Or perhaps it was this growing realization that so many called virtues, touted as worthy aspirations, possessed a darker side. Purity of heart also meant vicious intransigence. Unfaltering courage saw no sacrifice as too great, even if that meant leading 10,000 soldiers to their deaths. Honor betrayed could plunge into untractable insanity in the pursuit of satisfaction. Noble vows could drown a kingdom in blood or crush an empire into dust. No, the true nature of heroism was a messy thing, a confused thing of innumerable sides, many of them ugly, and almost all of them terrifying.
So good. All right, I like this one. Ever had a child, Silchus? I thought not. Giving advice to a child is like flinging sand at an obsidian wall. Nothing sticks. The brutal truth is that we each suffer our own lessons. They can't be danced around. They can't be slipped past. You cannot gift a child with your scars. They arrive like webs, constricting, suffocating, and that child will struggle and strain until they break. No matter how noble your intent, the only scars that teach them anything are the ones they earn themselves. I mean, pretty great.
Pretty great. That feels like my experience, all right.
I read that to my wife last night. I was like, listen to this one, honey. Because you're telling them. I'm telling you, I've been through this. Listen to my wisdom.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Your wisdom means nothing to their dumb brains.
It wasn't until I got the scar myself that I went, oh, that's what you meant.
That's the thing. That's the process of getting older, is the slow realization that your parents were right.
Yep. Yep.
And then here's the other side of that coin. Getting old was a misery. First, the skin sagged. Then aches settled into every place, and places that didn't even exist. Pangs and twinges and spasms. And all the while, the skins kept sagging, lines deepening, folds folding, and all beauty going away. The lift of upright buttocks, the innocence of wide, shallow tits, the face still able to brave the weather, and lips still sweet and soft as pouches of rendered fat. All gone. What was left was a mind that still imagined itself young, its future stretching out, trapped inside a sack of loose meat and brittle bones. It wasn't fair.
Oh, gosh.
Incredible. Man. I mean, just
I read perfect. That yesterday, having just come home from the gym and literally being like, oh, my knees.
It's so true. It's like all this is happening, but your brain still thinks you're young.
Yeah.
It's just so wrong. Anyway.
What a start.
What a start. I'm into it. Digging it so far. Appreciate you all being with us. Thank you for sending in those topics. Again, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. Thanks for your comments on the YouTube. Thanks for your participation in the Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord. Thank you. It's awesome to be back with the penultimate Malazan. We'll see you next week. Until then, dance it out.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club.